Hey guys, this is Suns Fan and welcome to the Dota Cinema Guide to Slark. This was written and approved by our good friend Dota 2 Bowie. Be sure to follow him on his social media as well as subscribe to his Dota 2 YouTube channel for more in-depth analysis. This is updated for patch 7.23. Keep in mind that as updates come out, some of this information could change, although it is still likely most of it will be highly relevant. Slark is one of the most fun and unique heroes to play in Dota 2. He's one of the few heroes that always has a chance of turning a game as long as you get enough stacks of your passive and play relatively well. This hero is unique for many reasons, but quite possibly the most important is related to vision. Slark has superior night vision, and when you combine this with his ultimate, which essentially allows you to know if the enemy has vision of you or not, it's a recipe for de-warding, which makes you even harder to kill. Slark's skill build is quite a tricky one, although it looks simple on paper. The usual build begins with 1 point of Essence Shift, but that was the case because of 90% of the offlaners being melee in the last patch. In 7.23, a lot of ranged offlaners are starting to become popular, and thus you don't necessarily need it. A rule of thumb is to always get it if you're against at least one melee hero, since 2 or 3 attacks can increase your base damage by 9. Trading and later getting every creep kill can be quite rewarding for this hero. After that, the choice of getting Pounce or Dark Pact can vary to a high degree. If you have kill potential, then Pounce is the better choice, but against some heroes with big cooldown stuns that can be dodged like a Centaur in lane, Dark Pact at level 2 would be more beneficial. After that, the norm is getting a second point in Essence Shift to maximize trading and zone the enemy offlaner while getting a value point of Pounce if you haven't already, and then maxing Dark Pact. In some rare games, you can see people going the extra mile and skilling 3 points of Essence Shift, but that can be quite dangerous. If you do that and you end up losing the lane, then your recovery takes ages since your creep clear and jungling ability is completely god-awful. If you're an experienced Slark player and you have confidence that more Essence Shift will work, then go for it. Having said that, most players won't benefit too much from it. After that, you max Pounce and then Essence Shift. For talent, Slark is quite straightforward. The agility might lure you at level 10, but the strength is absolutely amazing on this hero. Slark grows exponentially during fights, and the only way to stop him from going on a feeding frenzy is to burst him down. So unless your enemies are AFK, I suggest strength over agility. At level 15, there are times for both talents. The attack speed is usually the most common one, but against the likes of Axe and Legion, the lifesteal can also make a big difference. Level 20 is a bit trickier. The Dark Pact damage is really good as the mid and late game arise because you pretty much clear a wave in 2 seconds. It not only increases your farm, but also decreases the chance that you get ganked because you're almost never still and you're really fast, so the chances you get caught are minimal. But in games where you're playing from ahead and snowballing, the Pounce duration can be really good to get core kills on heroes that have yet to finish a BKB. Skilling this talent also makes more sense if you're planning to go Ags in the mid game. But if the enemy already has multiple Force Staffs or BKBs, then the Dark Pact damage is probably the way to go. And level 25 is a complete no-brainer. The Essence Shift stacks is why this hero becomes a late game powerhouse, so don't even think twice about it. You see this item? Underrated. Ask your supports to get it to you, and if they don't, buy 2 or 3 yourself. You are the best hero at de-warding in the game, period. You have an extra backpack slot, so there's no justification for you to skip it. In terms of items, let's just start by saying please forget about Midas. The way that patch 7.23 works now forces you to fight as early as possible, and Midas makes that very difficult indeed. So with Midas out of the way, let's talk about your starting items. A really common and good build at the moment is 3 branches with a tango and a salve, or 2 tangos depending on the lane you're going to. The branches allow you to stretch your regen in case your courier is late, and the stats are always nice to have. Orb of Venom is a really good item to have against melee offlaners as well. Since you don't spend money on Stout Shield anymore, Orb of Venom becomes a pretty good item without messing up your slots, while also making melee heroes fear you even more. After that, you generally want to get Brown Boots since it synergizes even better with your Orb of Venom and your first Wraith Band. There's a lot of small items that can be useful as well. Wand is great versus Bristleback. Raindrops against your Sand Kings, Rubiks, Linas, and Tinies can save your fish ass frequently. The standard build for Slark is not really defined yet, but I'll give you a couple of hints at what's good and what's bad. While they reduce the mana regen and stats for drums, the attack speed buff is amazing for the hero, and for the playstyle that the patch forces. So generally your inventory will look like this at 13 minutes. Phase Boots, drums, wand, Wraithband, Quelling Blade, and maybe a jungle item if you're lucky. One small footnote to this is that against heroes like OD, Lina, and Disruptor, treads can be a viable boots option in order to avoid the burst damage at the start. But if you're having a good game, then phase boots should do just fine. From this point, you generally go for Diffusal Blade, as it's an amazing item on Slark, as it provides you terrific agility and a way to slow, not to mention, of course, the mana burn. Keeping that in mind, however, some heroes actually don't really care at all about your Diffusal Blade. The Storm Spirits of the world, Void Spirit, Ember, that's a lot of spirits actually, Queen of Pain, Puck, they're all really hard to kill. But you know what fixes that problem? Aghanim Scepter. Not only do you get 2 charges to pounce, which means almost any hero in the game dies to you, but the range and speed are insane and extremely hard to dodge. It also makes you tankier, which is something that this hero desperately needs. Moving on, there's a bunch of other builds that can arise from time to time. If you're against a Doom, for instance, Sanjin Yasha is incredible. Why, you might ask? Well, the HP and status resistance makes you way better at dealing with Doom, and the move speed allows you to find that small little tree area in order to get your Shadow Dance bonus and cruise your way out regardless of the spell. In the mid to late game, BKB is always appreciated, but, feel the game. If you went Ags, for instance, you're probably really hard to kill already. I've actually seen people going Moonshard right after Ags, just because of how tanky they are at this point of the game. With a ton of attack speed that early, it makes you a complete monster in fights. Basher can also be good against the likes of Faceless Void or any other hero that builds a Basher like Ursa's and PA's. It really helps with manning up against heroes that can kill you. And of course, Scotty and Satanic are never bad on the Fishman. Just consider whether you need to man up or if status resistance and lifesteal are good options. Slark is a brawler. Fighting is your thing, but you need items. Drums is your first power spike in the game, so before that you're usually just farming unless outposts are about to go down. Be sure to always bring clarities to increase your farming speed and constantly pay attention to your Shadow Dance icon so that you know whether the enemy sees you. When you get either Diffusal or Ags, that's when you start fighting for real. One big mistake I see Slark players make when fighting is pressing all their buttons as if in a constant state of panic. They usually pounce and Dark Pack together to deal as much damage as possible, and that's okay sometimes. But if you don't account for heroes missing, you might be setting up a perfect Epicenter Burrow Strike or, well, any Blink Stun for that matter. Always account for the spells you're afraid of, and whether they were already used, or if you see the hero that casts a spell right before the fight. Another big mistake Diffusal Slarks make is using Diffusal and Pounce together too quickly. This is especially important when you have phase boots. What you want to achieve in most fights is slowing someone with a Diffusal Blade so that you can start hitting them, and as the slow wears off, that's when you pounce. What that achieves is an unmissable pounce. If you pounce first, it's way easier to sidestep it, and you wasted a lot of your lockdown and maybe even an escape. Pounce can be both an initiation and an escape, but Diffusal isn't. Another trick that's great on Slark is coming in and out of the fight as you lose HP. Slark sometimes gets in this crazy roll of damage and kill after kill after kill, and then you realize you're just dead because buybacks or a hero being late to the fight that finally shows up. Your hero is so fast that you can get away with hiding in the trees for just a few seconds as you wait to heal and for your cooldowns to come back. After this brief period, you can just re-engage just as easily. So breathe and remember that the longer these fights go, the stronger your hero will get. Slark is a really versatile hero that allows you to use creativity. In some games, you can just play like a Juggernaut or Lifestealer because if your enemies don't have AoE stuns, you can push waves and eventually just Dark Pack TP. Speaking of Dark Pact, avoid using it and BKB together. The reason Shadow Dance and BKB exist in your inventory is the ability to buy time until you hit critical mass. Very few scenarios require you to use both at the same time. As a result, just play like a man and use your resources slowly so you can build Essence Shift stacks. Essence Shift is in fact the sole reason your hero can carry, especially at level 25. You see that you have 30 stacks? Well, go Roche. You just killed 4 heroes but only you and an ally are alive? It doesn't really matter. Just push, get barracks because it's very likely that you're an absolute monster after that. So jungling or playing passive with so many stacks should be absolutely reportable. Slark in lane benefits from any slows and stuns. He's also especially fond of Lich and Grimstroke, since their slows to move speed help with getting kills and stacking Essence Shift. During the game though, any sort of buffs that alter your DPS are amazing. Magnus, Ogre, Bloodseeker, and Invoker come to mind. This hero doesn't really have a lot of friends that are indispensable or greatly help you, but Crystal Maiden is pretty solid because you're so mana hungry. Also, any mobile heroes with stuns are great, since you yourself are quite mobile and allows you to play at a high tempo. On the other hand, Slark hates burst damage. Tiny, Sand King, Puck, and Odie are really hard to handle. Some heroes don't really offer burst damage per se, but are still quite dangerous. Leshrac is probably your worst enemy since all of his spell but the lightning can affect you in Shadow Dance form, which forces you to get an early BKB in almost every game. Finally, we have undispellable spells like Chronosphere and heroes with silences that are mobile like Puck or Disruptor, that are not mobile but do have reach. Grimstroke is another one, that while not mobile has decent reach, and has a silence that is undispellable with your Dark Pact. It's really hard to play against that hero when it's accompanied by any stun, as it'll just take you too long to remove that Phantom Embrace. Thanks for watching, guys, and be sure to subscribe to the Dota Cinema channel for more guides to come. Big thanks again to Dota2 Boy for all his help. Let us know if you have any suggestions in the comments, and tell us who you'd like us to do a guide on next. Until next time, this is SunsFan signing out.